Welcome back, my dear friends. Now we are actually going to learn about the muscles of your arm and the forearm and the hand. Now, first of all, let me tell you the planning, like why I'm discussing all these muscles beforehand. Why? Because we have to actually learn about the nerves, like the ulnar nerve, the radial nerve, the median nerve, all the major nerves we got to learn. And what I have observed among the students is that whenever you're learning the nerves directly, for example, if you just directly learn about the ulnar nerve and the median nerve and all, they're going to supply like a lot of muscles in your forearm and a lot of muscles in the hand. And when the students are actually learning the ulnar nerve and the median nerve and the radial nerve, I mean to say the major nerves, at that time they're getting confused a lot. So what I'm planning to do here is that, first of all, let us become perfect with the names of the muscles. And after that, we are actually going to learn about the nerves, and that will actually make the things easier for you people, guys. So please follow my planning. As I always say, follow all my videos in the same sequence, guys. Is it okay? So let's get started with the muscles of your arm, forearm, and the hand. Now, first of all, try to understand here, in the arm, all the muscles of the arm are actually divided into two compartments. You'll be having the muscles in the anterior compartment and the posterior compartment. The muscles of the forearm are again divided into two compartments. You have got the muscles in the anterior compartment as well as the posterior compartment. But whereas in the hand, you yourself can do one thing. Just touch here and see there are no muscles there, guys. So you have the muscles only here. I mean to say only in the front over here, guys. You don't have the muscles over here in the back of your hand. So therefore, that is the reason why we don't divide the muscles in the hand into any compartments. Simply muscles of hand, guys. I repeat that. In the arm, anterior and posterior compartment, and in the forearm, anterior and the posterior compartment, and in the hand, only the muscles of the hand, guys. So let us deal with all of them in sequence one by one, guys. First, let's get started with the muscles of your arm. Look at this diagram, guys. The moment you look at this diagram here, you can easily identify, yes, this is the anterior compartment of arm. And in the anterior compartment of arm, you'll be actually having three muscles. And all the medical students love to remember those three muscles with the mnemonic as BBC. So you'll be having like coracobrachialis, and then there will be biceps brachii, and then you'll be having the brachialis muscle, guys. So in the anterior compartment of the arm, you'll be having three muscles, remember them, with the mnemonic as BBC. Now in this diagram, you are able to see the scapula here. Scapula will be actually having a process here. This process is referred to as coracoid process. This process here will be the coracoid process of scapula. And from the coracoid process of scapula, you can see the muscle originating there. And that muscle will go and get inserted onto the shaft of humerus on the medial surface, of course. So that muscle is starting from where? It's beginning from the coracoid process. And that is going and getting inserted onto the shaft of humerus, of course, on the medial side. Now, because it is starting from the coracoid process, that is why doctors kept the name as coraco. Inserting on humerus. Humerus is present in the arm. Arm is also known as what, guys? Brachium. That is why brachialis. So what is the name of this muscle here? This muscle here will be the coracobrachialis muscle. Coracobrachialis muscle, guys. So try to learn the names of these muscles with the meaning so that you will be able to remember them for a longer time and easy to even identify in the image-based questions, guys. Then after that, you are able to find one more muscle over here, and this muscle is originating from again the same thing, the shaft of humerus on the anterior surface, lower half of that, not the complete shaft of the humerus, the lower half. And after originating from there, the interesting part here is the insertion. This muscle is actually going to cross the elbow joint and it will go and get inserted onto the ulna. Okay, so on the other side, you'll be able to find the radius bone here. And on this side, you're able to find ulna. It is inserting onto a tuberosity, and this tuberosity is referred to as ulnar tuberosity. So it's originating from the humerus, the shaft of the humerus, and then inserting onto the ulnar tuberosity. This muscle is said to be the brachialis muscle. This is brachialis muscle. And I'll tell you like one more thing here itself, why I'm like more interested about the insertion of the brachialis. Why? Because try to understand here, the brachialis muscle is actually crossing the elbow joint, inserting onto the ulnar tuberosity. So it is actually forming the floor of the cubital fossa. So I'm going to teach you about the cubital fossa topic later on, but right now make up the concept, guys. Brachialis muscle is actually, going and inserting onto the ulna on the medial side. So that is the reason why it is actually present in the floor of the cubital fossa, guys. Now, once you are done with these two muscles in this diagram, now these two muscles are actually overlapped by your favorite, that is your biceps brachii. Now, in this diagram, you're able to see this muscle, that is your biceps muscle. Biceps brachii muscle. Now from the name itself we can understand bi means two. The word ceps is coming from cephalus. Cephalus means head. There'll be like two heads. Biceps has got like two heads. One will be the short head, another one will be the long head. Now out of these two heads you can see here again the same thing. This process will be the coracoid process here. And from the coracoid process, my dear friends, originates the short head of the biceps. So this one here is actually the short head of biceps brachii muscle originating from coracoid process. Then what about the long head? To understand the long head here, my dear friends, this one here will be the glenoid cavity. You all know very well, glenoid cavity is actually involved in the formation of shoulder joint. So if this is the glenoid cavity, the head of the humerus will come and form the shoulder joint here. Now you just imagine my hand here to be the glenoid cavity here. And if this is the glenoid cavity, there will be one tubercle above and there will be one more tubercle below here. And the name of this is very simple guys, supraglenoid tubercle. Another one is infraglenoid tubercle. And the importance of this is that from both the tubercles, long head will originate. Long head will be originating from both the tubercles. Supraglenoid tubercle, long head of biceps. And infraglenoid tubercle, there will be long head of triceps. Try to remember it like this guys. So you can clearly appreciate in my diagram here, this is the supraglenoid tubercle and from there originates the long head of biceps here. So you can see this tendon here. This is the long head of biceps. And I want all of you to remember like one more point here, sir. When you observe the upper end of the humerus, you'll be actually having two tubercles. On the lateral side, there will be greater tubercle. So on the lateral side, this one is greater tubercle. And whereas more anteriorly, you'll be able to find the lesser tubercle. Humerus will have greater tubercle and lesser tubercle. Remember, greater tubercle is more laterally, whereas lesser tubercle is like more anteriorly. Between the two tubercles, you'll be able to appreciate that there is a depression there. There is a groove there. And that is known as intertubercular sulcus. The name is very meaningful. In between the two tubercles, that is why intertubercular sulcus. And there you can see in the intertubercular sulcus, the long head of biceps tendon. The long head of the biceps tendon is actually passing through that one only. That is the reason why that intertubercular sulcus is also known as bicipital groove. Biceps tendon is passing from there. That is why it is also known as bicipital groove, guys. That is one point to remember. Later on it will help you a lot, guys. Okay, fine. So finally, what we have completed here, is the origin. So let us just summarize here. Short head will be originating from where? Coracoid process. Whereas the long head of the biceps will be originating from where, sir? It is originating from the supraglenoid tubercle. Supraglenoid tubercle, sir. Now after that, both the heads, the long head and the short head will combine together and they are going to form a common muscle belly. And then the biceps tendon, the tendon of the biceps will be actually again crossing the elbow joint and inserting this time on the other side, I mean to say on radius bone. And again the same thing, there also you'll be able to find a tuberosity. It is inserting onto the radial tuberosity, guys. Just now we have discussed about brachialis. Brachialis is the one which is inserting on ulnar tuberosity, medial side. Whereas biceps tendon is going and getting inserted onto the radial tuberosity, on the lateral side, radial tuberosity. Apart from that, appreciate one more important thing here, sir. I hope you are able to see from the tendon of biceps. From the tendon of biceps, you are able to see one expansion given here, and that is an aponeurosis. And that aponeurosis will be actually forming the roof of the cubital fossa. Later on, we are going to discuss about the cubital fossa. So remember, this is actually the bicipital aponeurosis. Bicipital aponeurosis, and that is actually going to merge with the roof of the cubital fossa, guys. That's all. So in short, only like 3 points you have to remember here. Short head will be originating from coracoid process. Long head will be originating from supraglenoid tubercle, and together biceps will be actually inserting on radial tuberosity, guys. That's all. So these are the 3 muscles which are actually present in the anterior compartment of the arm. So learn it in the same sequence: coracobrachialis, and then biceps brachii, and then brachialis. I repeat for the last time: coracobrachialis, biceps brachii, and the brachialis. These are the 3 muscles in the anterior compartment of the arm. Now, as I told you the planning here, guys, later on when we are going to learn the major nerves like musculocutaneous, axillary, radial, ulnar, it will be quite easy. Later on I will teach you anterior compartment is supplied by musculocutaneous nerve, and at that time, my dear friends, if I ask you like which muscles are supplied, BBC muscles. Understanding? That's how it becomes easier if you learn the names of the muscles first of all. Next, after completing the anterior compartment of the arm, now let me turn it behind. Let us see the posterior compartment of the arm, sir. Wow, look at this beautiful diagram. The moment you look at this diagram, for sure, yes sir, this one will be the posterior compartment of arm. Now in the posterior compartment of the arm, the only muscle that you have here will be triceps. And from the name itself, you can understand that triceps, there'll be like 3 heads. It'll be having 3 heads. And as I told you, the glenoid cavity, try to recall, glenoid cavity will be having like a supraglenoid tubercle and there'll be an infraglenoid tubercle, above one tubercle, below one tubercle. And from here, the long head of the biceps, and from here, there'll be long head of triceps. So therefore, long head of triceps will be originating from infraglenoid tubercle. This will be the long head, sir. And then there will be one muscle on the other side here, sir. This one will be the lateral head towards the lateral side. And in this diagram, if you are able to appreciate here, this one here will be the medial head. This is the medial head. So triceps muscle will totally have like 3 heads. There'll be one long head of triceps, there'll be a medial head, and then there'll be a lateral head of the triceps. There'll be a long head, then there'll be a lateral head and the medial head of the triceps, guys. Now one important thing to note down here is that out of these 3 heads, which is the largest one? Which is the largest head, sir? Even though in this diagram you're able to see a small part of that, remember medial head is actually the largest head of triceps. You're not able to appreciate in this diagram. Actually what you have to do is, to see that you have to cut from here along the spiral groove. So you've got to cut and then reflect those lateral head and the long head. Then beneath that you'll be able to see the largest one, that is the medial head, guys. So triceps has got 3 heads, the long head, lateral head and the medial head. Medial head is the largest one. And apart from that, you'll be also able to see in the posterior compartment one small muscle over there, that is anconeus, but that is not that much important. So we're not much worried about that one, guys. Concentrate on the main ones. Is it okay? And by this we actually complete what, guys? We complete the anterior compartment of the arm and even the posterior compartment of the arm. Just to summarize, in the anterior compartment, BBC muscle, coracobrachialis, biceps and brachialis. And in the posterior compartment, triceps. Crystal clear concept. Now after completing the muscles of arm, now let us go ahead with the muscles of the forearm, guys. So let us see the anterior compartment first, and then later on we'll see the posterior compartment. Now let's speak about the muscles of the forearm, guys. And the moment you look at this diagram, in this diagram you're able to see this is the anterior compartment of forearm. This will be the anterior compartment of forearm, guys. Now here I want you all to be like really alert, guys, with full concentration here. Why? Because arm, it's easier. But when it comes to forearm, in the forearm, most of the students are actually confused about all these muscles. There's some like beautiful concepts if you apply properly. So I'm going to first of all teach you about the anterior compartment, which will be obviously having the flexor muscles. And then I'm going to teach you about the posterior compartment, which will be having extensor muscles. And along that one only, I'm going to teach you about the retinaculum also, guys. That is your extensor retinaculum. Why? Because if you learn it now itself, it will become much more easier to you. You'll understand. So even this is also like very much conceptual here, guys. So don't try to just simply make a list of all the muscles and mug up as you have been doing in your first year MBBS days. Let us learn in a conceptual manner. So first, look at this diagram here. Now in this diagram, this muscle here is actually your brachioradialis muscle, sir. This is the brachioradialis muscle. But one thing that you have to note down here, or you have to appreciate here, is that even though the brachioradialis muscle is seen here in the anterior compartment, remember it is not the muscle of the anterior compartment, guys. It is actually the muscle of the posterior compartment. And because it is like more bigger muscle, more larger muscle, so that is the reason why you are able to see that in the anterior compartment also. But keep in mind, the brachioradialis muscle is not the muscle of the anterior compartment. And moreover, to support that, I'll tell you, to support my statement here, I'll tell you that brachioradialis muscle is the one which is supplied by radial nerve, sir. And we all know radial nerve is the one which will be supplying to posterior compartment muscles only. That is the reason why, remember, brachioradialis is not purely a muscle of the anterior compartment. It's actually a muscle of posterior compartment. So what you do is, in this diagram, in your mind, you just try to rule out that one, sir. You forget about the brachioradialis. It is not the muscle of anterior compartment. If you just leave it, then which muscles are actually the muscles of your anterior compartment? Let's learn about them right now. First of all, this muscle here, guys, this one will be the pronator teres. This is the pronator teres muscle here. And one thing I hope all of you know that in the anterior compartment, you'll be actually having the flexor muscles, and flexor muscles will be having a common origin. That's your medial epicondyle. There'll be a prominent medial epicondyle here, and from here, all your flexor muscles are originating. So you can clearly appreciate here, this will be your medial epicondyle here. So from the medial epicondyle, that is actually the common flexor originates, and all your flexor muscles are originating. So you are able to appreciate there it is pronator teres. Here itself, I want you to make a concept in your mind. On the lateral side, you'll be actually having brachioradialis muscle. And on the medial side, you'll be having pronator teres muscle. And then join the lateral epicondyle with the medial epicondyle with some imaginary line. Between these three, I repeat again, laterally brachioradialis, medially pronator teres, and then the lateral and medial epicondyle are joined together by imaginary line, and that is actually forming your cubital fossa. So as I told you, I'm going to teach you the cubital fossa topic in detail later on, guys. But for now, start making the foundation, start making the concept right now in your mind. So laterally which muscle? Brachioradialis, medially pronator teres, and here the imaginary line. That is actually the boundaries of your cubital fossa. We'll do it later on, guys. Now don't get distracted. Come back to our topic right now. The muscles of anterior compartment of the forearm. Now after pronator teres, you're able to appreciate like one more muscle over here on the medial side. Now what is the name of this muscle? Obviously in the anterior compartment, you'll be having flexor. And if you follow the tendon of that, it will be going and getting inserted onto your metacarpals and all. Carpi. And it is towards the ulna side, ulnaris. Flexor carpi ulnaris muscle. There will be a flexor carpi ulnaris muscle. If there is ulnaris, there has to be a radialis here. Yes, this muscle on the other side will be actually your flexor carpi radialis muscle. So it makes sense. So flexor carpi ulnaris and flexor carpi radialis. Now in between these two muscles, you are able to appreciate one more muscle here. Yes, I'm actually speaking about this muscle, and you can just follow the tendon. The tendon of that muscle will go distally, and it will be actually inserting onto the flexor retinaculum over there, guys. I'll tell you one thing very clearly, guys. Whenever there is a image based question given based on these muscles of forearm, never ever try to just answer or identify the muscle just by looking at this area or this region. Always whenever you're having these long muscles to be identified in the exam, I'm telling you, the trick here is, first of all, look at that muscle and follow it proximally and distally. Then only you'll be getting the right answer, guys. Otherwise, if you just look at this region and try to find out the answer, absolutely it will be wrong. Why? Because in this region, all the muscles are very closely arranged, very closely packed, and you'll not be able to identify them. Are you getting a point here? The better you have to always look at the proximal and the distal end, guys. Now this muscle, if you look at the proximal side, it is beginning from the medial epicondyle. Definitely it belongs to your anterior compartment, flexor muscle. And then if you follow that distally, the tendon is going and getting inserted onto the superficial surface of your flexor retinaculum. It is inserting onto the flexor retinaculum. And that muscle is actually your palmaris longus muscle, guys. That's the best way to identify palmaris longus muscle in the exam. So see, distally, the tendon will go and get inserted onto the flexor retinaculum. That's your palmaris longus. So these four muscles, that is your pronator teres, guys, pronator teres, flexor carpi ulnaris, flexor carpi radialis, and palmaris longus are present in the superficial layer. Anterior compartment, the topmost superficial layer. Now let us do one thing here. Let's remove these muscles, and then you'll be able to find one intermediate layer and one deeper layer. So if I remove all these muscles from here, then I'll be able to see the middle layer, that is your intermediate layer, and the deeper layer, guys. In the middle layer, this muscle that you are able to see here, sir, that one will be the flexor digitorum superficialis. Why the name is given like that? Again, the same thing, try to see the distal part. If you follow this muscle, these tendons will actually go here, and these tendons will be actually dividing into 4 tendons, and these 4 tendons will be going into the digits. These 4 tendons are actually going into the digits. It means that whenever this muscle is going to contract, all the 4 tendons are pulled, and therefore what will happen? The digits will flex, guys. That's the reason why it is known as flexor digitorum. Flexor digitorum. And this one is superficially present, superficialis. Again, if you remove this muscle, beneath that you are able to see one more muscle. Again, the same concept. That is also flexor digitorum, but being deep inside it is known as profundus. Remember, in anatomy, deep, the meaning of deep is actually profundus, or profundus means deep, FDP. But my dear friends, it's not that easy here. Most of the students will be actually confused here. Why? So I'm able to see even that is also dividing into 4 tendons, this is also dividing into 4 tendons. Then how can you differentiate FDS and FDP? Flexor digitorum superficialis and flexor digitorum profundus. How are you able to differentiate that? I'll tell you the trick here, sir. See, what you do is you just follow the tendon of FDP. FDP, the tendons are actually going and getting inserted into the distal phalanx. Flexor digitorum profundus, the tendons will be inserted into the distal phalanx. All the way they are going and getting inserted into the distal phalanx. Okay. Whereas if you see the flexor digitorum superficialis, I want you all to appreciate in this region here, sir. This region. Okay. FDS, you can see that the tendon is actually splitting there. Okay. And after splitting, FDS tendon splitting there. So from beneath that FDP, flexor digitorum profundus tendon is going and inserting onto the distal phalanx. Are you understanding? So try to appreciate in that region. FDS tendon will split, and in between those two slips, what will happen, sir? FDP tendon will go and get inserted onto the distal phalanx. So let me just highlight this with the same color here. This is your FDP here. FDP, FDP, FDP here. Hope you're understanding that. So just by seeing the distal end, you'll be able to identify which is FDS and FDP, guys. That clears the concept. Apart from that, you have got a separate muscle for flexion of thumb. You can see this tendon here. It is going all the way into your thumb and up to the distal phalanx there. So obviously that muscle is in the anterior compartment. Again, it is flexor only, going to the thumb, and it is pollicis, and it is a long one, sir. It is for flexion of thumb, sir. Flexor pollicis longus muscle. This is flexor pollicis longus muscle. And if you even remove this muscle, the deepest one and the last one in the anterior compartment will be the quadrangular shape muscle, and this muscle is actually helping in pronation. That is the reason why the name of this muscle is pronator quadratus muscle. It is pronator quadratus muscle, guys. That is actually the deepest one. So these are all the muscles that you actually have in the anterior compartment of the forearm, guys. So let us do one thing. Let us just summarize. So how to learn these muscles of the anterior compartment of the forearm, guys? First of all, the moment you look at this diagram, rule out the brachioradialis. It belongs to the posterior compartment. All the muscles in the anterior compartment are arranged in 3 layers: superficial, the intermediate, and the deep layer. The superficial layer will include the pronator teres, flexor carpi ulnaris and radialis, palmaris longus in the middle. If you remove them, then you'll be able to see one more muscle here. That's your FDS, flexor digitorum superficialis. And then flexor digitorum profundus deep inside that. I told you how to differentiate. FDP tendons will be going all the way up to the distal phalanx. And then there is a separate muscle for flexion of thumb, flexor pollicis longus, and then for pronation, pronator quadratus, guys. So these are all the muscles in the anterior compartment of the forearm. So my advice to you people, please forget about your old method of studying as you have studied in your MBBS days, like just writing that anterior compartment of the forearm, the list of muscles. You will not be able to understand which muscle is present where, and you cannot mug up all these names. Best way, learn it like this, and that too cool and calm and composure. Don't try to rush. If you try to rush, if you learn it like fast and mugging, you'll forget them. So try to learn it in a conceptual manner. Now, after completing this anterior compartment of the forearm, now let us turn it back. Let's go to the posterior compartment. That is your extensor compartment. And there is a beautiful concept. We are going to learn about the muscles there in the superficial layer and deep layer. And then I'm going to also teach you about the anatomical snuff box there. And then we are also going to actually study about simultaneously the flexor retinaculum also, guys. So let us now move towards the posterior compartment of the forearm. Now look at this diagram, guys. The moment you look at this diagram here, this will be the posterior compartment of forearm. And we all know in the posterior compartment of the forearm, you'll be actually having your extensor muscles only. But again, the same thing. First of all, look at this diagram, this muscle, sir. And this muscle is flexor carpi ulnaris. Oh my God. Sir, what is this one? Flexor carpi ulnaris is actually the muscle of the anterior compartment. But again, the same thing, same story. It's a big one. That is why it is also reflected towards the posterior side here. So you are able to see here on the posterior side also, guys. Okay. So do one thing, guys. Always keep this in mind. Whenever you're seeing the anterior compartment, brachioradialis. And whenever you're seeing the posterior compartment, first rule out the flexor carpi ulnaris here. Now, once you forget about that, you just rule out that muscle or you just remove that muscle. Then look at the next diagram here, guys. In the next diagram, you are able to see only and only the posterior compartment of the forearm. Only the posterior compartment of forearm muscles. Now apply the same logic again. Again, you will be having the ulnaris and the radialis here. So guys, this is the lateral side here. And this one is the medial side here. No confusion at all. So if it is the lateral side, there it should be radialis. So this muscle is actually your extensor now. Posterior compartment extensor. Extensor carpi radialis. Why carpi? You can follow the tendon. The tendon will go and get inserted onto the metacarpal cell. So extensor carpi radialis. Try to learn with the meaning. But there is a small problem here. There is a small problem here, sir. What is the problem here? The problem here is that it's not like only one muscle there on the lateral side. There are actually two of them, so there is one more. And that is also like extensor carpi radialis only. Extensor carpi radialis only. Now you can see the difference between both of them. Yes, the difference between both of them is extensor carpi radialis, one of them is more longer. It's starting more earlier. It's starting above the epicondyle there. So that is like more longer. That is why extensor carpi radialis longus, and this one will be extensor carpi radialis brevis. Longest, long one, brevis, it is a shorter one, guys. So basically what I am trying to put in your mind is that extensor carpi radialis, there are like two muscles, one is longus and one is brevis. And then on the medial side here, it should be definitely which one? Extensor carpi ulnaris muscle, guys. Extensor carpi ulnaris muscle. On the medial side, ulnaris. So try to compare the posterior compartment with the anterior compartment right now. In the anterior compartment, you have got flexor, and there are only two muscles, sir. Flexor carpi ulnaris, flexor carpi radialis. No tension at all. But on the posterior compartment, you have got like extensors, again the same thing, ulnaris and radialis, but radialis, there are two of them, longus and brevis, guys. Hope I'm not confusing you. Now, after learning about this one, then welcome in the middle wala part. In the middle part, are you all able to appreciate this muscle here, sir? Again, do the same thing. Follow it distally. You can see there are like four tendons. Okay. On the posterior surface, you can see like four tendons going into the digits, and they are actually helping in extending the digits. Extending the digits. That is why the name of this muscle is extensor digitorum. Simple. It is extensor digitorum muscle, guys. But if you look at the diagram more carefully, more closely, yes, you'll be able to find one more muscle and follow the tendon of that. The tendon is going and it is going all the way into that little finger. Obviously, guys, this muscle is present in the posterior compartment. That's the reason the name of the muscle is extensor, and it is going to the little finger digiti minimi. So it is extensor digiti minimi. So what do you have to understand from here? It means that for extending all the four digits, you have a separate muscle, extensor digitorum muscle. And then you have an additional muscle for extending the little finger also. So that is your extensor digiti minimi. And not only that, you also have like one more muscle for extending your index finger also, guys, like this. Okay, I'm making that yo sign like this, index finger. And that muscle you'll be able to appreciate in the deeper layer. So let me remove this layer from here, the superficial layer of the muscles, we are removing here. And let's see the deeper layer now. In this deeper layer, you are able to first of all appreciate this muscle over here. And this muscle follow the tendon of this one here, guys. It's going into the index finger. So that is why it is your extensor indicis. Extensor indicis muscle, guys. Extensor indicis. Fine. So I want all of you to even remember in the same manner as I remember here, guys. Okay. Do it like this here. First of all, in the extensor compartment, I'll tell you one easy way to remember. First of all, finish off with the ulnaris and radialis. So extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis, and extensor carpi ulnaris. First of all, finish off with the ulnaris and radialis. See, always approaching the topic is important. How to approach is important. Otherwise, even I can do the same thing. Write it like a list and you are mug up. No, that is not going to serve the purpose. Okay, I'm here to make the things easier for you. So in the extensor compartment, first finish off with the ulnaris and radialis. Done. Then in the middle, you have one muscle for extending all the digits, extensor digitorum. Then one additional for little finger, extensor digiti minimi. And then you have got like one more muscle which is additionally for extending the index finger, extensor indicis. Okay, so extensor digitorum, extensor digiti minimi, extensor indicis. Is it okay? Done. Ulnaris and radialis. After completing all these muscles, we are now just left out only with the thumb. There are like 3 muscles which are associated with the thumb here, extremely important, and it is even important conceptually also. See, I have been telling you like in many concepts, whenever you're learning about the muscles of your thumb over here, the muscle which will be on the outermost part, guys, outermost side or the outermost one will be the one which is going to take the thumb away, taking the thumb away. So when any muscle which is going to take the thumb away, abductor. So out of these 3 muscles, try to appreciate here, this muscle will be actually the abductor. That is abductor pollicis longus muscle. Abductor pollicis longus muscle. Now apart from that, we are actually left out with 2 more muscles. This is like one muscle here, and then there is one more muscle over here. So this one. There are 2 more muscles, and they are actually your extensor muscles, and they are actually supplied to the thumb. Their name will be extensor pollicis. Then out of these 2, just find out which is longer one and which is the shorter one. The one which is along with the abductor, it is shorter one. So therefore it is extensor pollicis brevis muscle. Okay, and the one towards the other side, that is medial side, that is extensor pollicis longus muscle here. Extensor pollicis longus muscle there, guys. Are you getting me? Now why I am actually stressing a lot here, remember these 2 muscles, that is your extensor pollicis longus, this muscle is actually present towards the medial side, and whereas these 2 muscles, that is extensor pollicis brevis and abductor pollicis longus, is towards the lateral side, and in between them you will be able to appreciate one space here, guys. So you'll be able to appreciate one space here, and this is actually referred to as your anatomical snuff box. So for your reference, I have actually, kept a diagram on the side also. You can appreciate the diagram over there, guys. So anatomical snuff box is actually between what? Between EPL, extensor pollicis longus, on the medial side, whereas extensor pollicis brevis and abductor pollicis longus on the lateral side, sir. So between these 2, you'll be able to find anatomical snuff box. You have to just do one thing here, extend your thumb like this, okay, just extend your thumb, do it practically along with me, extend your thumb like this, and then if you appreciate here, if you see here, this is nothing but the anatomical snuff box. If you touch here, you'll be able to, feel that there are 2 tendons there, and those 2 tendons are abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis. And then on the medial side, you'll be able to find one more tendon, that is extensor pollicis longus tendon, guys. In between them, anatomical snuff box. That is the reason I told you, once you learn these muscles on the posterior surface, one more concept will become easier for you. So learn in the same sequence. Don't try to learn the topics haphazard here and there, guys. Okay, learn in the same sequence here. Here itself, we are able to learn the boundaries of anatomical snuff box. Is it okay? Fine here. Now, in this diagram, I want you all to appreciate one more thing here, sir. One last and final thing. Okay, and we'll finish off with these muscles here. In this diagram, are you all able to see this tendon here, guys? This one. Okay, and this one, there are 2 tendons coming here, and these are actually the tendons of your ECRL and ECRB. I just want you to keep one thing in the mind. You are able to see the tendon, those 2 tendons, that is ECRL and ECRB, in the middle of this 2, in the middle of the lateral and the medial boundary of anatomical snuff box. Is it okay? Why? Because that will be actually important for us to learn about the extensor retinaculum. So when I'm going to teach you about the extensor retinaculum, these are the things which will be useful over there, guys. Is it okay? So that is about the superficial layer and the deep layer of the posterior compartment of forearm. So let us do one thing here, sir. Let us just summarize here. What did I tell you how to approach this one here? How to learn this one? First of all, finish off with the ulnaris and the radialis, sir. So extensor carpi ulnaris, extensor carpi radialis. Of course, there will be 2 of them, longus and brevis. Then in the middle, you'll be having extensor digitorum, and then there'll be extensor digiti minimi for the little finger additionally, and extensor indicis additionally for the index finger, guys. Now, once you're done with this one, then deal with the thumb. And thumb, you have one muscle on the outer side, abductor pollicis longus, and then you'll be having 2 extensors, extensor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis. In between them, you'll be able to find the anatomical snuff box. And keep in mind, in between them, you'll be also able to appreciate ECRN and ECRB over there, guys. Okay, so that is all about the muscles of your anterior compartment of the forearm as well as posterior compartment of the forearm, made easy. Crystal clear concept, guys.